All right, peeps. Is it time?
Yeah, what do we got to do?
I think Josiah's going to do it from his side.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Have we been live? Oh, okay, cool. Hi. Is this? We have no idea.
Is this the internet?
Is this reality? Let's see here. Posts. Are we there? Are we there? I don't know. We haven't shown up yet. Anyways, it is Thursday, so we have to be live.
That's the rules.
Those are the rules.
It is Thursday at 7:15-ish.
Nice.
We're getting comments. Good.
That's super cool.
So Brandon's going to pull that up on the screen at some point in time here. Meanwhile, let's talk about some sponsors, guys.
Sponsors.
You know them and you love them. Beyond Driven Fitness and Performance on Main Street in Leroy. They have you guys covered for all of your fitness needs. Recently voted one of the top gyms, I think the top gym in Genesee County, which I had been saying for a very long time. So I'm glad I was finally vindicated in that because I was afraid I was going to get sued. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, great facility. Recently did the grand opening of their Beyond Boxing program. Seems like it's going to be a hit. And you guys should go and check that program out or one of their other, opportunities for you guys, whether it's a spin fit class, whether it's cross training, whether it's strength training. If you have, a youth athlete participating in some kind of sporting event, get them into some sport specific training, right? We also have Arms Preservation Inc. They make their metal defense spray, right? I think you have some right over there on the shelf.
Going to be doing some long-term testing with this upcoming.
Yes, we have started some testing on that. Very nice. And we also have their complete line of vapor corrosion inhibitor bags.
Get that microenvironment going.
Patented microenvironment technology. You put your valuables, be it a firearm, optics, ammunition, jewelry, etc., into that microenvironment, and you are protected.
Locally made right here in East Rochester.
Yes, sir.
Local company through and through, and Second Amendment supporters through and through.
Local
Mitch
people,
Jason,
local
cool
products, local business. We love it. So thank you to our sponsors for their help. We got no Tyler tonight. So
no Ty tonight. I'm trying to think of the last time it was just you and I.
It's been a while.
It's been a little while. Yeah.
We haven't done a show like this.
Now, remind me when we first started this.
Yeah,
wasn't it you and me, and then Tyler was
Tyler was not. He was still out of work then.
Yeah.
And then we had me and you, and we had me and Sniper Dan, and we had
Then obviously Josh
got
was
involved. Yeah.
It's been a history. We got to go back. We got to hire an intern to go back
and watch some
and
old
do a
programs
best of,
and
get a best of reel.
Yeah,
we'd have some good ones.
We've had some interesting cast or hosting combinations working.
Yeah.
And all
some
of
good interviews. We've
had some good guests and stuff.
Fun.
Neat.
We've had some fun. Tonight, as we posted, we've got a couple topics to talk about, like the red flag laws and how those have expanded and really become, something that needs to be talked about more, I think. And I
don't think a lot of people realize.
When they pass these laws, things get put out there. There's the way the law is written, and then the way it's implemented, right? And I think we're finally getting to, when they first passed that law, not as many people knew how to use it, I guess, law enforcement
what would the
whoever. Yeah, the people, say the mandated reporters or the people who can red flag you, now they're being educated, and there's a lot more knowledge on how to use those extreme risk protection orders, against us, against people. I mean, I don't know. I have a real big problem with those.
So let's talk some specifics, right? First of all, an extreme risk protection order is basically just a way for an ordinary person who is connected to you or me or you or somebody who they deem to potentially be a danger to themselves or others, right? Through some subjective observation that we don't necessarily know like what it is that they would have to see or articulate, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's the first thing.
Right.
But second thing is like, who is it that could potentially be making an extreme risk protection? I know it's like a teacher at school.
So yeah, it's
we have a list, right?
I've got it here. Let's see here. I've got it somewhere here. Okay. In New York State, police, school principals and superintendents, family and household members, and healthcare workers. So that's one that was recently changed, and I don't think a lot of people. I did not know that was part of the law.
Define healthcare. Like, are we saying your doctor? Are we saying just a nurse?
I think it's doctors or nurses, people that are involved in your healthcare. I don't know about the secretary, in the waiting room per se, but I would assume that they're all, the word that gets thrown around is like you're a team. So I'm sure that like if the secretary heard you make a comment and they relayed it to the doctor, then yeah, it could go up the chain. So this is a news article. This was published yesterday. Berkeley Breen, he's a pretty good local reporter. He's reported for us a few times or with us, and he always gives us a pretty good fair shake. I think he's one of the better ones. And the state finally released the data. I didn't look. I don't know if you can see who actually is like red flagged. I think it's just generic data on this kind of stuff. But just to quote, it says, for the first time, we can see the number of of requests and court orders to remove guns from a home. The number show there wasn't a single petition filed by anyone in Monroe County before the Buffalo Tops massacre. Right. Since then, there have been 74. So there were none before that Tops shooting. Right. And now since then, in that past year, there's been 74 reports that have been made. And the article goes on, and we commented this. If you go back to the Facebook page, we commented this article in a link. You can see it. It says that the state averages 300 to 500 a month, but there are only 1 to 5 filed per month in Monroe County.
Oh, only.
Right, only.
Okay.
And it goes on to further say, this is from the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions. They say they do work. And their definition of working is they found that for every 10 to 20 extreme risk protection orders issued, 1 suicide was prevented. So in what world is a 5 to 10% success rate successful?
Meteorology. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely ridiculous. That's the I'd rather 1,000 innocent men be locked up than 1 guilty man roam free. Like, I don't think so. That's not how things
pretty
are supposed to work. Yeah, like we in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty, and I remember seeing the movie Minority Report, but like future crimes, thought crimes aren't really a thing. Like, yeah, okay, if you make a specific threat, like I'm going to do this, and you have the means and the motive and all that kind of stuff lined up, like you're sitting outside the Oklahoma City building with your FBI buddy, like, sure, yeah, that's one thing.
Well, if the FBI is involved, we know
of course,
for sure
yeah.
There's fixing to be some violence.
I mean, there's a story that hits very close to home, someone that well, that has been red flagged. Mm-hmm. And it's not as simple as just being red flagged and, oh, okay, someone thought you got a little bit heated on an argument or whatever, and, hey, we calm down, and no, like your life is turned upside down. You're probably going to get fired from your job because they're probably going to come for you at work.
Or you're going to be sitting in jail because you get caught with some kind of restricted capacity magazine.
You're going to have your property taken from you, which is
100%. That is absolutely going to happen.
Onerous, right? A financial burden on people, and you've got to hire a lawyer now.
Yes.
You've got to take time off of work. You've got to figure all this out. You're left defenseless. I mean, some people don't live in good neighborhoods, or they might be a single parent. I mean, I'm sure 99% of these people that have been red flagged are males. But I'm sure some women have been red flagged, and it could happen to anyone. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that people are allowed to say this person could commit this thing, so we have to take action as if they have.
Well, by that logic,
a criminal.
By that logic, like I could say any number of offensive things on this live stream, and I have definitely said offensive things on this live stream before. So maybe we should restrict my ability to access the internet.
Sure.
Or maybe we should just put a little delay, right? So that way people can decide. We won't even take away my ability to speak, right? But we'll just put a barrier in place, a time barrier between me and my thoughts and you people, because then you won't be vulnerable to whatever stupid shit I might say, right? Like, who gets to decide,
right,
what's good to say, right? And like,
there's Roger made a comment like, "Don't threaten to blow up the bathroom." I don't know if have you ever seen that when that happened. Like, I don't know how true it was. You believe everything on the internet with a grain of salt, but yeah, there was like a famous screenshot of a tweet or a whatever.
I'm about to blow up this bathroom.
A guy comments, "I'm about to blow up this bathroom," and he means like the Taco Bell style blowing up, not the
about to drop off a
C4
bomb
trying to,
yeah.
So, I mean, there's some stuff that I guess you learn the hard way. You don't make those jokes in the airport, maybe, but that obviously was a funny situation. He made that joke. I don't think anything really came of it. It's not like his property was taken from him. His life wasn't turned upside down. Another danger of these ERPOs is you might have something that when you bought it was perfectly legal. You've done nothing wrong. You've had this item stored away. You're a collector. You're just a private citizen who has whatever it is. Now the police are in your house, and it's like, oh, is that registered, or did you get that magazine pinned, or did you do this or that? And now all of a sudden, again, you haven't committed a crime. There goes your 4th and 5th Amendment rights. And now all of your stuff is being examined. And it's like, oh, this magazine that you bought in 1980, Grandpa, or hey, you brought this home from wherever, or, you bought this, whatever the case may be, never hurt a soul with it. It's been sitting in your house causing no problems.
Right,
now all of a sudden, not only do you have the ERPO to deal with, now you've got 5 SAFE Act violations here. Like, you've got 5 felony counts of this.
That's what happened to my friend. Yes, he was actually banged up. It wasn't an ERPO issue that ended up putting him in a jail cell, right? It was actually a separate crime that was discovered in the course of, and it was a firearms related crime that, again, victimless, A, B, nobody would have been any the wiser about the fact that this crime of possession of an inanimate object was being committed at all if, like you say, his 4th Amendment rights hadn't been egregiously violated to begin with. And you also have to point out here that every time that they enact one of these red flag laws, who are they sending to your house? They're sending people with guns to your house. Yeah. There was a guy in Maryland that was actually shot and killed at his own home because the police decided to come and try to confiscate his firearms, and he didn't want to have his firearms confiscated on that particular day. And you know what? He's a free American. Yeah. He hasn't done anything wrong. He's not the one that said
he had the gun staged to. Is that in this article?
Sure. No,
there's one of these articles that someone
Malik Evans.
Oh yeah. In one case, they say police say a rifle appeared to be staged to ambush police. The petition filed in the summer said the man threatened to burn down his home and shoot himself. It said a rifle was staged in the room to use in an ambush attack of deputies. The ERPO was granted 14 days after it was filed. It's just again.
So it took 14 days for them to even act on it.
Right. So how dangerous is this? Like, if it was really that big of a concern,
2 weeks,
yeah,
right,
and it was probably 14 business days, so 3 weeks really. John made a great comment, which really breaks my heart. Better not to talk to anyone. And
because what can you say?
That really illustrates the problem, though. And I'm looking at the sticker that I put up the other day too. This is what mental health awareness looks like. They're trying in one breath. They're saying we need to increase mental health awareness. We need to do whatever we can, because that is, I think, the issue. It boils down to someone is mentally unwell for whatever reasons that may be. You don't just wake up one day and say, I own a gun, or I could go buy a gun, so therefore I'm going to go commit a murder or whatever. Like, I think it takes a lot more to get someone
you don't
to that
just have
level.
access to
Right, because we have that. I have many guns, and there's no, like, you know what I mean? There's nothing realistically stopping me. But that's because I am a sane person with my wits about me.
The
And
barrier
I'm not,
is you.
Right.
You're
But it's still a human. So, like, okay, and we've talked about this before. You go to the extreme of, like, Britain or Japan. You take every weapon out of society. You completely sanitize their entire way of life. People are still having those mental health crises. They're going to just take a car now and do it. Or they're going to mix two chemicals. Or look in Japan, they're going to 3D print a gun and still do it anyways.
Well,
so you've never fixed the problem. Like, I wish we would just address the problems. And like John said, now people are learning that they can't trust their doctors. So you're not going to go, which is a huge problem for men in general of not getting any kind of help, let alone mental health help, right? And now you're going to go to your doctor and feel like you can't open up to them or even tell them, you know, I mean, people like us, how are we supposed to go to the doctor and not bring up firearms?
Right.
Not that we're better than anyone or whatever, but it's what we do. It's our job. Literally, like, anywhere I go, when I start talking to someone more than like a how's the weather type of scenario, hey, what do you do? Oh, well, I own a store usually. And I try to be as generic as I can these days. And like, you know, they're, oh, what kind of store? A retail store, you know, like unless I see them, you know, like if I get the vibe, maybe they're a veteran or I happen to think maybe they're into guns. Not that I'm ashamed about it, but just because it's literally just not worth the hassle these days. And it's just a shame that we're getting to that level with healthcare now where you can't open up, you know, and maybe there's some good that's come of, you know, hey, I do have firearms, and the doctor says, hey, like, have you gotten your lead levels checked maybe? Or, you know, there is some good, I think, of being open and there with your doctor. Some people need to be reminded to lock your guns up when you have kids and things like that.
Sure.
Like, I think you need to be open and truthful so that you can get all the help that you need. But now you have this looming over your head. You know,
well, my thing is, why aren't we pushing education more so, right? Like, why aren't we pushing firearm safety education in schools, right? Like, it used to, a lot of people will ask, you know, a pretty reasonable question, I guess, which is like, we've had guns in this country for, you know, ever since obviously the inception of the country, right? And before that. So we didn't always have these problems with mass shootings and things of that nature. What has changed over time? And I think one of the most glaring, obvious things to me that's changed is we're no longer educating people about what guns are and how to integrate them into your life, but do it in a safe and responsible manner, right? That used to be done at the public school level.
Yep.
And you could actually bring a firearm on a school property, provided it was securely stored, and then you could leave school and go right out to do some hunting or go to your rifle practice.
Earned rifle, like NRA rifle qualification badges in the basement of Alexander.
Right.
So they had a range in the basement of the school.
And I think that when you had more people who were educated about what guns were and guns were more of an acceptable, they weren't as taboo, right? Then it was less likely that somebody was going to abuse that kind of thing, right? And I think that we spend so much time worrying about how to protect everybody from this stuff rather than worrying about how to educate them and how to get them thinking, you know, in the right
honestly it's just like abstinence only education.
Exactly. Like, that.
It doesn't work. It's been proven not to, like,
right. Or even DARE, right?
Sure.
Like drug abuse resistance education. That was all about like, hey kids, drugs are bad. And it was just a demonization thing. It wasn't like an educational thing where it was like, hey, you know, drugs are out there and these are the things that you have to be aware of. And, you know, these are some of the harmful propositions that could, you know, that are out there.
I just want to hit a few more things on this article about the red flag, the extreme risk protection orders.
Yeah, sure.
So again, after the Buffalo Tops massacre, the state expanded that law to allow healthcare workers to file red flags on people. And obviously there's more people down near New York City and probably a different mindset of firearms in general down there.
Right.
So in Suffolk County, they filed like 1,800 ERPOs over this same period that Monroe County only filed like 75 of them. I don't know if that was last year or whatever. But they're finding that the difficult part of it is the doctors and nurses struggling to fill out the paperwork side of it. So they may have had even more that they wanted to file, but it's too hard for the doctors and nurses to do it. So
Well,
again,
hard in
I
what
just
sense,
I
though? Like, are they
wonder,
just
like,
having a hard time articulating what it is that, like, because to
it
me,
says, you might see a lot of folks who may be at a higher risk. The sheer volume that emergency department physicians see makes it really hard for them to go and sit down and do this paperwork.
oh, so it's
And
just
so
the time.
John Hopkins is
commitment.
working on a solution for that. So they're going to try to make it, they're going to
To
come up with some
streamline
like,
this process.
streamline this process. Oh, he made an offhanded comment about, I don't want to be here right now. And, he wants to kill himself. And now ERPO. And I don't want to get too far, down the rabbit hole of personal beliefs. But I don't know, man. Like, if you're an adult and you want to off yourself, like, who's to say?
I don't know that anybody's going to necessarily be able to stop you.
Like,
I'm not saying
and
that it's
to
a
make
good
that
thing
a
or bad
criminal, where you do you not have freedom of speech in this country? Like, can you not say, okay, I understand, I can't say something like, fire in a theater that I could cause a panic and people are hurt because of my actions. You know what I mean? Like, I may not agree. I get that there are some restrictions on that. But a statement like that, again, I'm not making this statement, but I'm just using it as an illustration of saying, I want to do harm to myself. I agree that, people that love me should have the right to say what they want to me. And hey, don't do it. And everyone has those rights to say whatever they want, but does the government have the right to send armed men to stop me from doing that? I mean,
well, they're going to kill you anyway, right? Like,
right, yeah. And
they're probably going to kill somebody else in the process.
That's like the ultimate agency, right? I want to have the agency to live the life that I want to live, and damn it, if I make that choice. So
I won't argue that. I won't argue that point necessarily, because that could.
And again, I'm very happy. I'm not going to
rabbit hole
Hillary myself.
Yeah, no, I definitely I see where you're coming from there, but I think the bigger point there, besides the fact they're going to send other men with guns to potentially harm you or maybe somebody else in order to try to stop you, I think the bigger issue is in Canada, for instance.
Oh man.
If I, as a veteran, called the state and I said, hey, I need help,
and that's
their
beyond,
answer might be, have you thought about killing yourself?
Right. And that's beyond messed up. And that's a totally other,
But like those,
right.
It's the same. And it's the same ideology, right?
Their reasoning, though. Why do they offer that solution, though?
Well, because first of all, it's controlled by the state.
It's cheaper for them. Long
well, it's
term,
cheaper
right?
because the medical assistance in death helps keep the cost down of the healthcare for all. Right?
Sure.
So we have universal healthcare, and then we kill them.
I mean, it's related to like the death panel type of thing too, where they're like, but
it's all about state control.
Society determined,
ultimately,
who
right?
Did, yeah.
Ultimately, it all boils down to the state and letting them have the ultimate agency over your life. They get to decide if you live. Right. They get to decide if you die. And with that in mind, like, we also have another story here that kind of speaks to the same sort of control. And this is about Malik Evans, the mayor of Rochester, has extended the city's gun violence state of emergency. And apparently only 135 people. I say only. I understand Rochester's a relatively small city. Okay. And I don't want anybody to get shot that doesn't need to get shot. Right. And yes, people do exist that need to get shot. So for better or worse. But 135 people so far have been shot, which is lower at this point of the year than the 200 people that had been shot, last year around the same time. So we have many fewer people being shot in Rochester as a percentage, down from 200 to 135. So I guess the state of emergency would therefore be over, right? If we've already I just don't understand. I don't understand when the emergency is supposed to be over. Right. And I don't understand who gets to determine what an emergency is. And I wonder if if he's
is there
used fentanyl or
is there
some
any
of
like
those
checks and balances on that? Like he declares an emergency, like can the county legislators like undeclare it, or like what is it just declared until he's out or he says it's undeclared? Like,
well, I just want him to
that's a
have to
weird-
defend that. Like, I just want him to.
Sure.
I want there to be somebody like he wants to issue this declaration, so he should have to like write a declaration, and then he should have to go before the state legislature or the county board or whoever, right? And he should have to argue that case, and then somebody else should be able to stand in front of the same body and be like, Mayor Evans, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because
and like I
we
didn't get
have-
a chance to read through this one yet. Like I just don't get you were saying.
the problem is he's an elected official, right? And I don't think anybody elected him to do this shit.
So are you familiar with the point system in the city that businesses have?
No.
So if you're a business in the city and things happen close to your business, either in your business or just within a certain, like in your doorstep or within, like if that's the sidewalk out front of your building,
Within spitting
it
distance
happened
or whatever.
at your place.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like, say, like a bar fight happens, that's worth like 1 point. People in the comments can correct me.
But what if I don't
getting
own
this
the bar?
wrong. Well, the owner of the bar, you accumulate points. So you could be nothing that you did. There could be two bums just fighting outside and it happens to be in front of your place.
Bum fights.
You will get points. If there's a shooting, you get points. And too many points.
What if you didn't shoot anybody?
Doesn't matter. Too many points, you're shut down. So like this law,
That's
it says
bizarre.
right here, the city has used this order to shut down businesses which are hosting events which officials have linked to gun violence.
Linked how?
Again, exactly. It just happened in close proximity. So like this shooting happened on East Ave next to this bar. So it's got to be that bar's fault. So they get a point and they're shut down or whatever.
See, why is
And-
nobody challenging this? That is just very.
So
It's poor reasoning.
along with cracking down on house parties and unsanctioned gatherings, God forbid,
Unsanctioned gathering.
like, better call the government to make sure you
Whoa.
can meet up.
That sounds like a
uh,
government solution waiting to happen.
Evans said the city will be tightening security around public parks to keep people out after hours.
Oh, thank God.
City parks close at 10 p.m. Evans stressed he is not instituting a city like a curfew on city youth. What we are saying is we can't have kids having illegal gatherings in illegal parks.
So
now
where-
there's illegal parks.
So where can they gather?
They've made high capacity assault parks.
Where can they have illegal gatherings? Like, I don't understand any of this.
We
He
don't.
says that-
Okay, so look at this. We don't have a curfew, and we don't have restrictions on where anyone can go,
Except,
and we won't have
restrictions.
restrictions on people as long as we can keep things under control.
oh well.
What?
As long as he doesn't
You
lose.
can't go to the park.
As long as he doesn't lose any control.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it's all literally about them having agency over your life.
Damn. So we have more than double the amount of cars stolen too. He did address that.
Addressed it how? Like by standing in front of a microphone and saying fucking stupid words? Is that how he addressed
Oh.
it, or did you do a thing?
So Victor Saunders, head of the city's Office of Violence Prevention, said what they're getting back is that these teenagers are bored. They're bored.
Well, keep them out of
So-
the parks.
They have kids that they say like, listen, it's just something to do in regards to like stealing a Kia. It's just something to do because we're bored. So yeah, let's kick them out of the parks. Let's give you can't gather in groups. You can't,
Can't go to that
it's just
tattoo place, that all-star tattoo place they shut down.
Insane. Like just
Can't have any after-hours parties.
seriously. I don't know. I'm not saying I do know the answer on fixing like the city's problems. I don't live in the city, so I don't want to like speak for, things like that. I do know this past Sunday, RAFA, the Rochester African American Firearms Association, proud partners of ours. Like I'm so humbled to be their partner and that they've stuck with us through so many, ups and downs and obviously the fire and just they're our guys. There are
I
people.
really like their membership.
Men and women.
Yes.
They've got like 100 members now.
Oh, I'm
Do you
sure.
remember when there was like
I remember it was
5 or 6?
7
Yeah, like
or
10
8
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had their range day, which is like their freedom weekend, right?
Yeah.
This past Sunday, they had vendors here. They had a big tent. They were barbecuing. Oh my God, it was so good. And I had a really great talk with Paulie, like the president of that. And it really just came down to, people have got to take that pride and that ownership of their neighborhood. And he's doing that. I mean, he's sparking that spark in so many people, and it's so good to see. And I just think being involved in those communities and yeah, like giving young people hope, giving them something to do, is what it's going to take. But it's certainly not, jackbooted thug, heavy-handed, cops that aren't from your, neighborhood or whatever that come in and are just, doing, RPD doesn't have the best record, I don't think, but,
No, not really. They've had some issues with use of force, I will say.
Yeah.
One of the things that kind of sticks out to me about this Rochester and extends the Rochester gun violence state of emergency scenario is like he's saying that they're going to try and keep people from going to the parks after hours, which is great, right? But who's going to be enforcing that? Well, it's going to be the police, and the police have guns, right? So you're introducing men with guns into a pretty simple situation involving people being inside of a restricted area. And if those people have the ability to use force and they see the need to use force, then they're going to use force.
Right.
So somebody could potentially be shot and killed in order to keep people out of the parks. And somehow Malik Evans is perfectly okay with that.
Right.
Like somehow and the other thing that I'm curious about is how does empowering the police even more, how does that fit in with his anti-police
right
his like systemic racism narrative, right? Like how does you empowering people with firearms to go and harass and extort city youth in potentially in poor neighborhoods,
instead of maybe ramping up security at these parks, maybe have like outreach people that are, hey, this park is closed, but there's these resources.
Well, why can't we have specific parks that are open, and why can't we have basketball tournaments like that?
Yep.
I don't know. They say the kids are bored. Well, onboard them. Like you say that you have all these government solutions. Where's the government solutions that don't involve threatening people with violence?
I think they did a great job. I know it's not like maybe in the best location for like everyone in the city that needs it the most, but like that skate park they built under the Freddie Sue Bridge, that's pretty cool. Like that's been a much needed, because it's free, it's open to anybody. I don't know when.
But what are the hours? Like,
I don't know when
or
if.
There?
I don't know if that even like can be closed. Like where it is, I think it's so open. Right. Maybe though. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, and even last year there was, and it's still an issue. Not every time, but often when I go into the city, I'll see people on dirt bikes and quads and stuff. Obviously, like
but there's no appetite
and stuff.
There's no appetite to try and enforce any of that.
No. Well, there was what I was getting at was there was a talk last year of making like a city dirt bike park somewhere, like the skate park where it's like, okay, they're going to ride them anyways. You may as well make a spot where it's like, okay, ride them there. So at least you can have one.
Well, at least there's no traffic like that you're interfering with.
But it's just, bored, stay home, stay away from guns. It's Mike says it's weird to say teens are bored and then shut down a place to go out and hang out. Exactly. Maybe I missed it, but how'd you do at the Sig Tower tournament? What? Didn't you go to or you went to a tactical games? Somebody go to a 6 hour thing?
No, I wasn't there. Oh yeah, no,
that was 2 weekends ago.
TTG was 2 weekends ago, and honestly, Todd, I did not do that well, my friend. I talked about it a little bit on the stream from last week. I had gotten away from lifting heavy weights for a while, which was a big mistake. I'm a little lean right now, and it was just really tough trying to push the wheelbarrow. They had us load this wheelbarrow full of a bunch of sandbags and shit, push it through some gravel.
Yeah, because it is kind of, obviously everything's balanced out, so to speak, but like there's events where I would just have an easier time because I'm a big boy.
Just being bigger and heavier,
Me moving, it's like it's the same amount of weight. It's not proportional.
Right.
So like, we got to move a 60-pound sandbag. Well, that's like half your weight or a good, that's like an eighth of my weight or whatever.
Your math is awful, but
like
I like where
like
your
tenth of my weight.
Yeah, your math is not great, but yes, I'm with you. So Todd, I didn't do that well on some of the stuff, but I know what I need to kind of work on. And man, I don't think I'll be able to stay away. Like I keep saying that the tactical games are going to be
your time is coming to a
yeah,
close.
are going to be out for me,
Yeah.
but I can't give it up, man. It's so much fun, and I really like the people, and I just want to be able to do one every once in a while.
It's right up your alley too.
Yeah,
they're definitely, I would say, the most physically demanding of any of the
competitions that I'm aware
of. Yeah. Roger, maybe they should put a public shooting range in the city. People are going to do it anyways. I mean, I'm down. If they need some help on where to put it and how to develop it, I mean,
Roger, I don't know how serious
down.
you are when you make that comment, but I mean, honestly, like they have cities where there are shooting ranges. You could do an indoor shooting range like we've done here at the Firing Pin. And I'm sure that they could find a suitable place outdoors if they had, proper backstops.
They're much more common out west because there's just a lot more government-owned land, like BLM land and stuff. Yeah, I have a friend who works for a range in New Mexico that's like the Churchville Chili Golf Club that's owned by Monroe County, right? There's just this giant golf club. It's all whatever. There's this giant, like multi-million-dollar range complex. It's all outdoors, but there's like, I would say 100 lanes probably undercover, rifle, pistol, all this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And he's an RSO out there. There are some public ranges like closer downstate. A lot of them have been closed up lately. There was an unofficial one, obviously nowhere near like the city, like the comment was, but there was the unofficial one out in, what was it, like the Badlands, people would call it, the Tonawanda Reservation.
Yep.
And that got shut down. The DEC just said, no, too much trash. There was
a lot of trash out there, and there was also a lot of people out there shooting weird shit.
Sure.
Like full autos.
Sure. But they also never had any, like, you could have posted one RSO there to control it. Like, hey, here's a sign, follow the rules or get kicked out. And you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
They did no management to it. They were like, oh, it's the Wild West out there. We got to shut it down. And it's like, well, yeah, you didn't manage it at all.
Yeah,
like, it's just insane.
Try to mitigate some of that stuff.
Yeah, a public shooting range in the city would be super cool. Dragon Man's, have you heard of that guy?
Oh yeah,
I
was just watching a thing on him the other day. Yeah. He had a lot of inventory at that place.
He had
apparently,
a big fire, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a big fire. He also had a break-in as well. Like, it was crazy. Seemed like a really secure location. I don't know who the hell is going to try to break in there.
Yeah, right. I love the video that I've seen. Yeah, like his museum, because like most museums, everything's either behind glass or if it's out, it's been neutered, right? It's got like cement down the barrel or just none of it works or whatever. His place, you're going on a tour of it or whatever. And he's like, yeah, that's a 1919. Like, don't charge it because it's hot. Like, it's like, it's good to go. Like, So, again, we have got to, I think, keep the pressure up. We had a really good time at Freedom Weekend. Freedom Weekend has always been an event where it's our customer appreciation weekend. So the focus is on just a big party for the customer. But this Freedom Weekend, we kind of had like a hidden agenda that kind of came up on its own. And that was really making some good connections with FPC.
Getting people more involved in the advocacy.
Really showing that like we are the place. This is the center where I think the Second Amendment is going to regrow in New York. And I think the seeds of that movement can start here. And people are starting to realize stuff.
They're coming to get us.
Man, every day it's just crazy. I mean, I read there's a shop, I want to say in Syracuse, the state, or maybe it was in Canandaigua, somewhere relatively close. It wasn't in Rochester, but close. Yeah. The Office of Cannabis Management or whatever, right, that it's called. Yeah. They haven't been issuing licenses, or they'll issue licenses, but they're like half licenses or whatever. And a shop got raided by the OCM, and they came in, and like these people they're regulatory, but they're not police. But the owner's like, they all came in wearing like police, like windbreakers, and they start taking product. The owner's like, they took $1.5 million worth of inventory. None of it was cataloged, none of it. It was just put it in a bag, take it out the door. And it's just, is this what we're coming to, where the state is playing these games of like, oh, well, we'll give you your license, but you're not following the rules, but you're following them just well enough, and now we're gonna yank them back. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
It's very crazy. In this state in general, like the relationship that the state has with the people is very one-sided, right? Like the SAFE Act is a great example of, they have all of these rules, but nobody actually knows what they are. I was reading a thing earlier on a forum on the Facebook. Somebody was looking for guidance on a New York State legal pistol grip. Yeah. And they shared one that was made by Juggernaut Tactical. It's like a swept back. It's definitely a pistol grip, but the angle has just been significantly altered. And the question was asked, is this going to be New York State legal or not? And two different answers. Yeah. Two very different answers. One said, yes, definitely it's not a pistol grip because it doesn't meet the definition of putting your hand in a vertical angle below the receiver.
Where is that definition written, though?
Right. And then somebody else was saying, well, because it puts your hand kind of behind the receiver instead of in a vertical relationship, then it's good to go. But it's still a pistol grip because it's the same exact like dimensions and size of the pistol grip. Yeah. So like what?
Just crazy.
But
just crazy.
You try and get some clarification on that, and the state troopers are like, well, you can fuck around.
Let a judge figure it out.
But you're just going to find out. You know what
That's
I mean?
what they say. They say let a judge figure it out.
Yeah.
And you're trying to follow.
Just go law. Take a chance. We'll come to your house and shoot up your family.
What did Brett say that was funny?
Something hilarious.
Speaking of ATVs, do you sell spike strips? And we don't sell them, but I do have 2 sets of them.
I was going to say, I'm sure that we could obtain them from the
when the riots were happening in 2020. Like we up armored this place significantly.
I remember,
and that was one of the things. I just like randomly I went on eBay because I wanted like some. What I really wanted was like some face shields maybe. Or I was trying to think of, I was trying to find like they make these like folding vehicle barricades where, like easy to deploy or whatever. I saw they had a bunch of them actually at the Jazz Fest. I saw the RPD had a bunch of them set up. And I wanted to get just some like preventative measures if we wanted to lock this place down even more. And so you go on eBay, you can buy spike strips all day. Yep. Yeah, they had like one of the streets. I don't know. I'm bad with that area, but over by like the Liberty Pole, the Parcel 5, they had like the street like shut down, so people could walk in it or whatever. Yeah. And they had like 2 cop cars, and they had a line of like 10 of those things. Yeah, just like set up on these wedges. That pretty cool, I guess. Yeah, for sure. I like area denial stuff, man. Like that's right up your alley. Deny the shit out of an area, and then blow that shit up. Yeah, man. Oh, man. Do we have any other questions, I guess, about red flag laws, about the gun violence emergency? Yeah, or what do we got? Well, let's talk about guns. Oh, and thank you. What a professional-looking photo. That is a hell of a, I hope you got the job. Whatever kind of services Owen does, like, hire him. I hope he got wherever he was going, they hired him. Good stuff. Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm not the one I don't get to be the arbiter of that. So you're going to have to ask somebody with a lot more authority than what I claim to have. He's an artillery guy, so you're going to have to speak up. Well, not only that, he's an hi. Sorry, sir. He's a great dude. I like Ong a lot. It's just totally a random story, but we had a party at my house, like right before the fire. And Ong came. I think I was at that party. And another buddy of mine came, and they wore the exact same coat. Oh, and they did the old switcheroo. Yeah. And so my one friend brought his out. I think it was Ong's coat came out here, or maybe it was Joe's. Well, anyway, one of their coats was like here at the pin, waiting to be exchanged, and then the fire happened. Oh no! So I was like, "Do you want your coat back? Like it's all smoky. It smells delicious." I thought you were gonna say like Ong reached into the guy's like pocket
and pulled out some weird shit.
Also very possible.
This is not my code.
You were at that party also, so knowing the other people there, very possible.
Knowing the audience
Very
of that party,
possible.
yeah, it could have been.
Oh, man. I guess an update on the building. We're still chugging along. We should be going to the Virgin. What's today? The 13th.
Yep.
So whatever the last Thursday of the month
27th.
is. So so the 27th. So 2 more weeks. We're going back to the old town. And I don't know if we'll get our actual approval then, but I think we'll have enough approval to really start making some things happen over here. So it's been a process, and one of the things that we've been dealing with, I don't think I shared this last week, but like when you get your insurance, when you do your insurance or whatever, when you write up what you need, they go through all these worksheets and they're like, okay, how much money are you going to need for this? How much money are you going to need for that? And you total up like, okay, so the business is interrupted. So you got to figure out your payroll and all your expenses and like, what's it going to take to keep the business alive?
Like how much of a hit did you take?
Yeah,
over
like
this
for however
time?
long. Cause we're not, we're in business now,
but not
excuse me, but it's not like it was. We don't have the range, so it's like, so we obviously you do all this in good times. So you're like, I don't know, like the building's worth this. And you don't really know because like we built this place ourselves. So I don't know what it would cost to rebuild it. So you throw these numbers out, you pull these numbers out of your butt. Like you take an educated guess and then, you don't want to just say, oh, we'll put down 20 million because I don't have the money to pay for that kind of premium. You got to base it in some kind of reality. So we had said, and like this amount of money blows my mind, but we had said for our business interruption, it was going to be like $500,000. And that's like payroll and rent, even though I own the building, like there's still like a mortgage, there's still, So that's for like a year. That's for like a whole year, $500,000. And we were like, wow, there's no, like what disaster could happen that would, whatever. Well, we learned a fire, right? So once we start, we're a few months into this now, say 3 months into this, we have an idea like, okay, we have the shooting range, the mobile range that we're renting. We've got these expenses. We've got this, we've got that. And now it looks like we need more like $750,000.
Sure.
Like 500 is not going to cut it. We need more. That's going to take, if it goes the full 10 to 12 months, like we think it will, it's going to take that amount of money. So then what the insurance company does is they go, oh, so you only got $500,000 of coverage when you knew you needed 750, even though we didn't know we needed 750.
We didn't know
right.
shit.
But they say, well, you had to have known you needed 750. So you tried to, cheap out and not get enough insurance. So there's that delta of what you're missing there. And there's a percentage that there's a calculation they do. And basically instead of getting the full 500,000, they only want to pay us like 410,000 or 420,000. So we had to today like argue with them and like play the game of like adjusting our expenses and like, okay, well, I just told her straight out. I was like, I paid for $500,000 and I need 700. So I'm 200 short. You can't make me another $80,000 short or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm already 200 short. I don't need to be further in the hole. She's like, look, I get it. We can try to, and so it took like an hour's worth of like, all right, well, make the numbers look like this, but it's all because it's so weird because they'll take like, well, if we look at these 3 months on the graph, your sales are in this direction. And it's like, okay, well,
there's been so many.
And like, if you cherry pick, if I pick these 3, then the sales go down and I'm within that realm. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's no easy, like
the other thing is like, okay, I've been paying you insurance on the basis that like nothing bad has happened up until now.
Sure.
And you're supposed to help me out when something bad does happen.
Yeah.
And if after all of the payments that I've made to you, you can't do that, we'll just finish the transaction here. And once our business is concluded, I'll move on.
Right.
And I'll make sure that other people know if they're in a similar position, you're not going to help them either, you motherfuckers.
Right. Yeah, it definitely, it is one of those things we were able to resolve, thankfully. But I mean, yeah. I mean, Mike, you're welcome. I mean, I'm doing it, you know, I guess for the boys here. I mean, I'm doing it, you know, selfishly for myself too. I mean, I my family likes to eat.
But it's a sacrifice, man. I mean,
but
it's a huge undertaking.
And there's a lot of people. I mean, I definitely, when I first started this business, there's a lot of things I would just roll over on, or I did roll over on because I was young. I didn't have the experience, you know. And now it's like, no, like I'm looking at these forms and it's like, okay, you say these, you know, we go off of this, this, and this. And it's like, okay, why?
Right.
Like, why are we going off of this, this, and this? Who decided that? And she's like, oh, well, we just picked those. We just picked it out of nowhere. And it's like, okay, well,
yeah, but that doesn't work.
Let's run the whole scenario again with this, this, and this. And it's like, well, why'd you pick that? And it's like, well, same reason. Like, I just picked it out of nowhere. Like,
in my mind, it's going to work out better for me.
Right.
So that's what I picked.
And it is difficult. I mean, you can't, you know, you can throw a model together and predict the future based off of these figures and off of these and off of, you know, so it's like, you know, there's no right answer necessarily, but yeah, it's definitely been, and then it's tough too. You know, we've wanted to, oh, thanks, Marianne. We've really wanted to get going faster, but it's tough until you know the amount of money that you're dealing with, you know, so you can't,
how can you,
it's one of those, like, we got to figure out what we've got to work with before we can, you know, make things better.
For sure.
I had a big meeting Wednesday morning with the engineering team and the builders and everybody. And we've been meeting with like the range building, like we're going to be building the range, but like the HVAC people and working on all sorts of things. So I'm very excited. We're going to be announcing kind of what the building's going to look like or what it's going to be. I am sad that it's not going to be a wood building. There was a lot of charm, I think, that the old building had.
I really love the board and batten style of the building. And it was like, I mean, you couldn't tell that you guys built it, but when you knew that you guys built it, you're like, man, that rustic like feel to it was good. And
it was nice, but obviously, you know, wood, combustible, you know, kind of led to some of the issues we're having now.
Yeah.
So the next building, this building that we're building is going to be metal.
Got to build the less flammable house.
Yep. So there's going to be, you know, it's going to be different, but it's going to be better. I will say that it's going to be bigger. We're going to have more lanes for people, and we're just going to really be able to be that center for the Second Amendment that you all deserve. That's kind of, you know, we got, I think, 90% there with the old store. And we realized, you know, we built the old store like really, I don't want to say optimistically, but very like, we actually built it very cautiously, being like, oh, like 25 people in a classroom. We're never going to have, not that we have more students in that, but think of the events that we have.
But we do have more students.
We do have students. We do have a ton of students.
Every once in a while, not always, but
like the events that we have, you know, between the Chamber of Commerce or RAFA or just the various youth groups that come in, there's so many things that happen here. So we were like, man, we need more room. So I'm very anxious to just get that going. We're going to be moving, you know, things have been really like dragging. Thanks, these past few weeks. Aw, thank you. That is him too in the picture. That is
Mike is riffraff.
There you go, Brian. Yes, a Build Back Better that actually happens. It actually means it's not just a political slogan. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So to that point, right? Like, we are definitely going to be able to build back better, but I think it's so interesting, like how much of that has been driven by just the community that has been built around this place, right?
Absolutely.
Like, so much of that has to do with the people that come in here and support us, and you know what I mean? So
and we are, I'm telling you, we are going all in on you, the customer. I mean, we sat down, you know, there was a discussion of if we rebuild the store exactly how it was, we go and buy the lumber, the staff, you know, 2 guys watch the store and the rest of the staff are framing with me and Dad. I mean, we built the last one. Mon, Pa, and I framed it in one weekend.
Can absolutely be done.
We could do it.
We have a bunch of young, strong guys.
And we could be on the other side of that. Like, we could get, like, the gun ward and stuff, because these racks are, like, stupid. Like, this one rack was, like, $8,000. Like,
very expensive.
I'm embarrassed to say how expensive it was.
Yeah.
But, like, we could dial up the fixtures to 11. You know, like, we could make the old store either really nice, or, like, we could come out with it, say, with, like, a couple $100,000 in the bank. You know, go fuck off, take a cruise, we could be very selfish with what happened with the fire and how we come out of it on the other side. And the temptation is there to be very, like, selfish from a business, you know, keep a bunch of it. So we just have a bunch of money in the savings account, and, you know, whatever.
Put it back in, and it's going to come back out so much.
We are
more.
putting it in to the community, really. And we're going to have a facility that is for all of you, and I'm very excited about that.
Yeah,
very excited. We're gonna definitely when we get to that point, I really want to have the community involved, as far as, you know, hey, here's like maybe version 1 and 2. What do you like? Or we need some art on this space, or we need this, we need that, you know, and I want your input. So we're gonna need you. Thank you, John. That's very kind, and no pressure. But no.
Yeah, right.
Honestly though, it's a huge weight. There's 2 huge weights that have been lifted this time. One, Thompson Builders.
Yeah, they're great.
Oh my God. They just knowing that we have, you know, because I mean, not that we didn't last time. We had Marty Dilcher. We had people helping us, but we were the general contractor. So at the end of the day, it was kind of on us to make sure that things were done right and things were the way we wanted them. And you can do that, and that's great. But if you don't have the experience, I mean, I've built things before, but I've never built a 7,500 square foot facility.
But you don't know the things that can go wrong.
This was the first one I built. Yeah, so I don't know the right things to look for. Same with, like, if you're building an AR-15 for the first time, like, you can throw things together, you can follow the steps, but if you get turned around a little bit, you know, the steps might not necessarily, you know, and there's no when you build a building, you have blueprints. Those aren't IKEA or Lego directions. Like, this is what the building should look like. Not how to get it there. Just This is when it's done. These pieces need to be in these locations. It's not step by step.
But how do I make it level and plumb and all of those?
Right. So I'm so thankful that we have Thompson helping us with this. I mean, they are, I think, in this area, legendary for their quality and their attention to detail. And I'm just, you know, they're friends of ours, dare I say, from, you know, just from being here in the community. And it was like a no-brainer. Like, when this happened, like, I just started texting Jake immediately. Then it was like, let's go. Like, let's
you found your guy. You knew who you're going to go with.
Let's do what we're going to do. And then the other thing that's huge is, I don't want to say we know what we're doing. That's wrong. But when we built before, you know, I mean, Josh was here with me. We were building. You have this project that you're completing, right? We have a building that we're trying to build. I know I got to put these boards in. I got to do this whole wall all the way up 10 feet. You know, I got that final nail. It gets bam, 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 bam. You pound it in. You're like, all right.
Now I got a building.
Project's done. And now it's like, okay, to me, the way I always put it was that was the drive to the marathon. Now the work actually begins. Like, the building was the easy part. Now we got to run a damn business. And 9 years ago, I mean, that we didn't have a business to, you know, we were brand new. We had brand new inventory. We had nothing. Yeah. So now, you know, I don't know. Another comparison I can make is kind of like that first kid to second kid. Yeah. Like, that first kid, you probably remember coming home with them. Like, I distinctly remember that. Like, okay, the hospital's like, okay, go home. And you're just like, but what do I do? Like, dude, I was 18. What am I supposed to do with this? Yeah. Dude,
I was like 18 years old. Like,
yeah.
I was like, where?
But then, like, the second kid, you're just like, all right. You know, you pick them up where you're carrying them like a briefcase.
Set
you
that
know,
thing anywhere.
Like, whatever. Like, so this time around, I don't want to sound cocky or like arrogant, but I'm just not as worried. Like, I know how to run my gun shop. I have a great team that, I mean, I should call it their gun shop because they really run it. I mean, the team here is absolutely fantastic. I've been incredibly humbled this past week. Josiah and Tyler have been out in Milwaukee at an NSSF conference, getting learned up on the latest and greatest. That's been a whole thing that we're going to talk about next stream. Very excited about all the things that they've learned out there. Some very cool things they're bringing back. Some updates we'll be doing. So super excited about that. But yeah, it's been humbling this past week. You know, I'd like to think I'm here a lot. I know some people say I'm not, but no, I'd like to say I'm here a lot. But there are definitely times where there's a guy that comes in every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and he doesn't see me, you know, because I might not get here till 11 or whatever. I might not come in on Tuesday at all for weeks or whatever.
Right.
And so it is always nice to be kind of forced to be here. I think I was here, you know, on the schedule a lot more just because I had to cover for the guys that were gone.
People.
Yeah. So that's been really fun. And I love it. I love it. The team here, I just couldn't do it without you guys. So
yeah, we've had a good group of guys.
Everybody's telling me good job, but I've got it. And I really literally, like, you know, we had that team meeting like the day or two after the fire when we're like getting this space TFP 1.5 up and running. I had that talk with all of you, but like with Josiah and Tyler, and it was kind of like, okay, like you guys have to run the business, and I'm putting that in your hands because I'm going to be building the building and working with insurance and doing all that. Not that you can't ask me a question or what I would want to do, but it's this
I'm
is
not going to be there every
thing. Yeah, like I really got to put it in your hands to get it done, and they've been doing amazing.
It's nice to be able to delegate that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And like if you don't have capable people, then you don't have the ability to delegate. So that makes it much harder.
That's right. No I in team.
Does anybody have any sorts of...
Sorry, Mike says when you don't know what to do, call the mayor. Don't sound bored.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a good... Well, it's not like he's going to try to put us to work or anything like that. He'll just try and tell us to get out of the park. Does anybody have any like gun-related questions? I know we've had fantastic conversation about so many different topics.
You had a great talk. If nobody asked a question, you had a great talk today with a guy with the Holosun optics.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great, just, you know, he had come to me asking about some stuff, and he's like, you know, what do you think about going with a Trigicon or you know, even an EOTech versus going with a Holosun? And I was like, you know, I am pretty biased towards like the Trigicons and stuff, but you know, I don't really have a good reason to be. I just am. I'm a fanboy, you know, and I was like, you know,
military contracts, you can afford them. Like,
well, I don't want to sound privileged, but yeah, I mean, you know, but I have no reason to not go with the Holosun. Like, you know what I mean?
I don't think
like,
so.
Especially just seeing the way you know, I was skeptical a few years ago, you know, when you first started rocking them, and I think you were too a little bit because you know,
I was willing to gamble on it a little bit.
Right. And it's one of those things too. You are also at the stage. I'm not going to say you don't need your iron sights. Well, one, you can still use your iron sights through a pistol-mounted optic. Right, they're still there, so it's not like you cut them off and you're only going with a red dot. Right. And I mean, for self-defense distances, I'd argue you're probably pretty good point shooting at this stage of your career. Yeah. John, are you set up to transfer gun ownership? Yes, we can do transfers of any kind, either like person to person, or if you have to have them sent out of state or sent into state, or if they're at a sheriff's department, whatever the case may be. Yes, we can do gun transfers. It's basically $20 if it's just like from a person to person type of thing.
Yeah.
If it's going to another dealer or coming in from another dealer, it's $35. So
that is a great gun question. I love that gun question, John. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to pay shipping costs.
Yeah, you got to pay the shipping costs too.
So the Holosun topic, yeah, we were talking about that earlier today with a gentleman. Guy came in, he wanted to buy a new pistol. He's thinking about something in 10 millimeter. He ended up placing an order for a Glock, which was
Glock
great.
40,
Glock
right?
40 up to 10 mil. Yep, I'll take those from you, Josiah, when you're good to go there.
I love to like. So Pat's here. He had his like his range belt, you know, like a duty belt kind of on, and you know, he was kind of going through the different options, and I think that guy was pretty impressed when Pat was trying to demonstrate, you know, the closed versus open emitter systems.
Just poured the water all over my own shit.
Pat just had his gun like in the holster like this, and he grabs a bottle of water. And he just goes, well, you see, the problem with these ones is you just dump, and there's like a shot glass worth of water just sitting. And Pat's like just walking around the shop, and there's just a little pool of water like on his hip. Like, but again, it's like you're not you know what your gear is capable of, you know what it can handle, and it's not going to hurt anything.
Fine.
But it's that definitely illustrates the point of even an RMR, of that type of optic. If you're going to use it, which that guy he was talking about using it in a hunting environment, talking about hunting bear. Could you imagine being up in the Adirondacks, tripping into the mud, and then that's all you've got? You know, you just got a giant scoop of mud in your optic. Like, so yeah.
No, it's difficult, man, to like articulate that stuff sometimes. So you got to show it, right? You got to illustrate it. And the cool thing about having, and I would have done the same thing if I was rocking a Trijicon optic for sure, because super durable as well. But I think, you know, like to your point, it does speak to how confident you are in your stuff. When you'll do something that like is very counterintuitive, like pour a whole bunch of water onto your own electronics, right? So this is your Trijicon RMR, and it's an awesome optic. I mean, super durable. The housing is like very enclosed in that, right? Like there's nothing that's exposed to any sort of like the elements or anything like that. The glass in here is all right, but there's a lot of distortion. If you look at that little screen on the camera over there,
you can see
that's so distorted in there.
And it's not even like it's just around the edges. It's kind of wherever.
It's like everywhere the glass has that. Yeah. So
it's very much like looking through a peephole.
Yeah.
Like in your apartment, like no matter where you go, you're getting that fisheye whateverness.
Yeah, a lot of parallax, right?
Yep.
And so like the Trijicon, 675 whatever on this one. I don't even know it doesn't say on this specific box what reticle size we're dealing with there, but 675 on that optic. And then here we have a Holosun that's like very, very similar. This is why Josiah gave me these two optics. Here's a Holosun that's like very, very similar in like your footprint, but also in terms of the window size and all that stuff. Now just look through that window and compare what you were seeing through that Trijicon, right?
Maybe just a hint at the very edge, but
almost no distortion, right? Like
almost none.
Very crisp image there.
I wonder if that's just because of my glasses.
It's not, because I did the same thing. That's how I knew to show you. But so, and then here's the enclosed emitter one, and this is
375
on the bigger side.
So basically half the price of the Trijicon.
Right. And it's also a green reticle, right? So for me, and I say this all the time, also on this guy, you have reticle options here. I have choices of various reticles that I can use. And this happens to be the solar charging site. This is a battery-free design, essentially, right? So on the Trijicon that I showed you, the reason that when you look through that reticle, you didn't have, or you looked through that window, you didn't have a reticle, is because there was no battery in there. This doesn't require a battery, right? So I don't even need to put a battery in it. Now let's talk about the reticle options. 2 minute of angle dot, 32 minute of angle circle, or I can do both in conjunction with each other. So I have reticle choices. I have much higher quality glass that you and I can both visually see as we stand here. And I'm paying $300 less.
And I mean, I'm the first one to admit an argument for not buying them is China, but that's kind of it.
Okay, but I can say the same thing about yourself.
So that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
That's really like,
it's really difficult for me to get away from buying Chinese products.
It is.
So like I can go down the line and I can try and do that everywhere. And I'm not going to get very far before I realize that I'm out of money now.
It makes me angry. Companies like Trijicon, EOTech, Aimpoint, even, these legacy companies that, I mean, how long has the RMR been around for? 20 years?
Almost.
And it's been that same. I mean, it's been up in that
the
$500 or $600
blue
range.
glass.
Yeah.
Like,
can you change the optic or the reticle on it? No. Can you do anything? Is there a solar panel on it? No. Is there any?
What is that extra $300 getting me? It's not getting me any innovation. It's getting me a name on the side of the box.
They just kind of ride. I don't want to say compare them to Colt, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. Like,
it's very similar.
Colt would get a military contract, and it's like, oh, that's the Army gun, so I have to get it. And it's like, okay, well, they did the same thing for how many years, and they never, they're really sitting there not doing anything. So we did get some questions.
I know. I see
Todd
that. I want to answer Todd's
asks,
question for sure.
do you think it's better to start out training on iron sights before you go to an optic so that you learn just look at how handsome he is, first of all.
He's a good-looking fellow. He's got a beard.
Basics of shooting.
Well, first of all, Todd, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Second of all, great beard. Great goatee he's got. Really enjoy it. No, Todd, I don't perceive a need per se to learn iron sights and then go to optics, right? And I'll tell you kind of why. Mm-hmm. In the course of, and this is subjective, I guess, to the gun, to the optic, to the sights that you're using, because this won't always be the case. But if I'm shooting a gun that has an optical sight on it, and I learn how to acquire that sight, like by getting my presentation to be very consistent in terms of grip angle and head position, right? Those are the two things that we need to worry about when we're doing our pistol presentation with a dot. If I can keep a consistent head angle or grip angle, and head position through that presentation when I'm using an optic, I will also have a consistent head position and grip angle when I'm using my irons.
Sure.
And my irons will automatically be aligned anyway.
Sure.
So by using one, ostensibly, I'm kind of learning to use the other.
Sure.
The only thing that really is different in my mind is when I try and acquire the dot inside of my reticle or inside of my window, shooting with a red dot requires target focus shooting.
Sure.
Whereas shooting with iron sights does not require target focus shooting. Mm-hmm. I can do front sight focused shooting with my iron sights, which I can't do with my optic. Because if I'm focusing on my front sight, the relationship between my optic and my target is going to, or if I'm focused on seeing the reticle on the window, the relationship between the reticle and the target is not going to be consistent. Okay. So, in my opinion, it's actually better to learn to shoot with an optic first because it forces target focus shooting. And that's sort of a shift for me because a couple of years ago, I would have told you that learning to shoot with a front sight focus first is going to be better for most shooters. But after spending as much time shooting with a red dot as I have, and after teaching as many aged eye shooters as I have to try and focus on that front sight and then be able to embrace the blur of the rear sight and embrace the blur of the target. Yeah. It's just very, very difficult. So now what I do is no matter what we're shooting, I try and get the shooter to use target focus shooting as like the first option. And then
sense.
If the target focus shooting isn't working because you have bifocals or you're farsighted or nearsighted or something crazy like that, then we can use the front sight focus just to kind of get you to that point. But then when I introduce the optics to the aged eye shooters, they immediately go back to the target focused shooting.
I'm gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings. Put a number on aged eye.
35.
Oh.
Yeah. So when I talk about aged eye shooters, I talk about this a lot. When I talk about aged eye shooters, I'm a member of that club. So don't feel bad because I don't look aged. Okay.
You're a literal grandpa.
I am 100% the grandfather of a year-old person.
Here's a great question from Matt. Have you ever tried the covers for any pistol sights?
I have tried the SIG Romeo Pro, the SIG Romeo 1 Pro with the open emitter versus the closed emitter covers because you can actually, the Romeo 2, excuse me. But yeah, the SIG optic that you can change the different covers and you can cover the emitter or have it open. I've tried that. That's as far down that rabbit hole as I've gotten. But I'm curious, like, this is not necessarily specific to a pistol dot, but like on the Holosun 509, or excuse me, 510C, right? The rifle optic that's actually sitting right here by your head.
Oh, hi.
So they have this shroud here, and this shroud covers the window, but it doesn't cover the solar panel and it doesn't cover the emitter. My question is is there some sort of aftermarket option where I could take this shroud off and put a different shroud on that extends back to, and if there isn't, why?
Yeah.
Like, why has no third-party manufacturer introduced some sort of an option? What about it? Forward Controls Designs? What are we doing? Like, I could take this little cover off and put a different little cover on, and cool. Now I have an enclosed emitter. I don't know.
For them particularly, they're probably just not very honest.
Well, they're probably, because they're, I get it. Like, they're aim point guys probably, and respect to that. But at the same time, like, maybe they don't have to do it. Maybe somebody else could do it.
I'm going to go a little out of order here.
Sure.
Mike asks, on reticle choice, do you pick one and just stay there? Is it wise to have a dot on one and a death donut on the other?
It depends, man. So the donut of death, let's talk about what the donut of death is actually good for, right? The donut of death is a 32 minute of angle optic, or reticle rather, right? So 32 minute of angle, basically for me, what that equates to is I have a 36-inch space here from my chin to my belt buckle, right? That's essentially what the donut of death is for. So if I can see that color of green around that area, that's going to give me a good enough for what it's for kind of hit. You know what I'm saying? At closer distances. So is the donut of death useful? I would say for defensive shooting in particular, it's going to be quite useful. Because I can get a flash sight picture just by seeing that reticle someplace in the window. I personally like the 2 minute dot, and I do just kind of hang out there.
So
because it's so precise, it covers up so little of the information that I'm trying to see, and it tells me what I'm doing to the gun, because I can see that window moving around inside of the optic. So for me, the 2 minute of angle dot covers enough of the bases that I haven't really had to play around outside of that on my pistol optics. Now on this guy, it might be a little bit different, only because, you know, with a rifle, there might be times when I'm shooting an unknown distance target, or a target that's
for like range estimation purposes,
right? So I might use it to actually try and figure out how far away is this target, because now I have something that's known in terms of like, okay, 32 minute of angle at 100 yards is going to be 32 inches, 200 yards is going to be 64 inches, etc. Right? So that's going to tell me what I need to know about the target distance relative to where I am. So those are things that can help.
Jim, let's pull up Jim. His question, first of all, epic beard.
Yeah, no,
absolutely,
he's got a sick beard. Good for you,
beard.
buddy.
Good job, Jim.
Looking good.
Is there anyone at the store who can change out simple parts on an AR, new trigger, ambi safety switch, charging handle, etc.?
Any swinging dick in this building, Jim, can help you with those sorts of things. The real trick is going to be when can we actually do the work, because it's not it might be one of those things where you could just kind of pop over and have somebody do it real fast.
If he had come in the hour before the live stream, when all five of us were just sitting there shooting the shit,
we would have had him in and out of here.
That would have been
seconds,
great.
Right?
It is tough. I have honestly been turning everyone away for gunsmithing, mostly because we don't have the room. You know, before we had a space about this size just to store the firearms while they were being. You know, we take one in. Takes a guy a few days to work on it. You know, there's a workflow to it.
It would depend, I guess. If he had, like, if you've got parts laying around, Jim, if I'm like here at the store,
charging handle's nothing, a trigger's nothing.
We wouldn't even have to book the gun in. You know what I mean? If he needed me to build him a lower, you could hang out and shoot the shit for half an hour with Josiah while we do that. You know what I mean? Like,
we do. I was talking to McCardle here about figuring out a workbench situation and figuring out, you know, and maybe for some of that stuff too, we could even use Booksy. And like you're getting your sights switched out. Yeah, it's going to be a half hour block. Certainly doesn't take a half hour, but like we're not going to book it in.
Sure we schedule.
You're going to come down, hang out, and you're going to leave with it so that it's not, because we don't have.
We don't have to take possession of the stuff, right?
Yep.
I'm down. Like I think we could do it. We just have to set up a method that works for everybody.
Brett says he likes his red dots, but they're more useful if they co-witness.
I mean, useful to who, for when, why, for what situation, like why? What do I care if I guess it depends, man, right? Because like if my pistol irons and my dot don't agree with each other, but my dot is on, who gives a fuck what the pistol optics, what the pistol irons say, and vice versa, right? If the optic is not calibrated, but the pistol irons are still good to go, I don't need to reference my optic at all. So in my opinion, like when I'm shooting a handgun specifically, it is a strictly either or proposition for, as far as my sighting goes. Now, as far as like shooting a rifle, I will tell you that there are specific situations where I do maybe use my iron sights to get a more precise alignment of my dot on my target, right? If that makes any sense, like just seeing the dot inside of the reticle sitting on top of that post.
Sure.
On a target.
Yeah.
But that's more subjective to me. And that's definitely like not something I can do in a hurry.
Sure. Jim says he must fall into the ancient eye group.
Well, see, there you go. So
Gary,
optical sights are going to be the key.
Gary says he's in the aged eyes group at 65. Definitely the most aggravating thing when he goes to the range.
Yeah, absolutely. The eyes as they degrade, man. The stuff that you could see previously as it starts to go, it's heartbreaking. That's one of the worst parts of aging to me.
Todd says everybody at the pin should have good facial hair like him.
And Pat. I think he's trying to say Pat there.
Kim and Pat. Yeah, you'd sell more guns and ammo.
I agree, man. I think that if we had a sick beard policy, we'd do much better with the ladies and sales across the board. I think it would help us.
I clicked a button.
I think it would only help us.
Brian says old eyes are very humbling as it relates to shooting. It's frustrating as hell having to play the focusing game between irons, red dot, and crosshair scopes when he takes a few different firearms to the range. Yeah. And Mike says, shout out to Jim for choosing an AR pattern. Let's go, King. Hey, man, I love seeing, I love all sides of it. I love seeing a younger person who comes in here and they're only into like old lever action guns like I am. I love seeing, one of my favorite things about Jack. We had that old time customer.
Yeah, Jack.
Unfortunately, we lost him recently. But Jack Linney would come in here and he was in his 80s, and was carrying like a Glock 21 with a red dot sight on it, and like obviously you're going to carry a 45.
He embraced.
They don't make a 46, so you're going to carry a 45. Actually, he owned a 10 mil too.
But he didn't eschew modernity and embrace tradition only.
Oh yeah,
he did both.
Yeah.
He embraced tradition and embraced modernity.
Look at this old Swiss Vetterli from the 1880s or whatever. We'll shoot this, and then I'm going to finish by like drawing my concealed carry, like daily concealed carry Glock 21, and I'm just going to single shot or single-handedly. He was a good shooter.
Bullseyes.
He was a good shooter for anyone's age. Yeah,
bullseye pistol shooting. Yeah, no,
we had another really good. Cool. I want to say on Monday or Tuesday, we had a group go in. Sorry, it was yesterday. I took a group in, and boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, clearly together.
Yeah.
And he knew what he was doing somewhat. She had never shot a gun before, so she goes in there and she was super nervous. One of those like I show her how to do everything and whatever, and she would like pick the gun up, and she wasn't like shaking, but she'd be like, nope, I'm not ready, and she'd pick it up, and she'd be like. She's just getting she was like hyping herself up too much about it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay,
serious
hold on.
Fear response.
I took the magazine out, so she only had one round. I'm like, okay, so you're going to pull that trigger one time.
And the gun's going to be totally empty.
Right. And then nothing. If you freak out, if you drop it, whatever, like it's good. So she's like, okay. So she did it. Goes, bang. She didn't drop it, but she like set it down very quickly. Like gravity helped her set it down. Bang. Gun's down. She's like, nope. And she like backed up. And then her boyfriend comes up and he did it. She's like, you know what? That was actually pretty cool. And she shot a whole box of ammo to herself. Like it was such a switch. So fast. It was just so funny. Like, yeah, and she loved it. She's like, we can get a membership here. Like,
it's amazing.
She definitely it opened her, opened her eyes up.
So we had Freedom Weekend here a couple weeks ago, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to say today. But I will say that I recently changed career trajectories.
Yeah.
And when I was here at Freedom Weekend, I met one of my new coworkers that I'm going to be, I'll probably see her around the new office at some point, right? So it came up like, hey, Pat, can you take Rebecca in and do some shooting on the range kind of deal? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So we take one of the 9mm machine guns and we go in there. And she was a little bit nervous, you know what I mean? And I was like, all right, check this out. Here's what you're going to do kind of deal. And like, you know how it is, man. Like your confidence can really rub off on another person.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like if you know what you're doing. And she was like really put at ease by me just being like, all right, look, here's what it is. And here's what we got to do. And like, here's the process. And I just kind of laid it out for her. And I was like, all right, are you ready? And she's like, yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Took the gun, loaded it, charged it up. Here you go.
It's very fun.
And like she did it, and we started out on semi, bang,
nice,
bang, bang. All right, you ready? You good? Okay, awesome. Lean into it, put the fun switch on, and she was getting after it. And she felt like really good about it. And it's just so much fun, man, to see that light bulb turn off or turn on. That can be
some people.
Too. Freudian slip there. Sorry, guys.
Jamie says that confidence that you operate with in that scenario is one of the reasons I enjoyed taking classes with you. You put people at ease at all levels of skill.
Oh, hey,
how much do we owe her for that?
Right? Yeah, no, that was a good endorsement. I appreciate it. No, that's I've been doing this for a really long time, and I don't want anybody to ever mistake like the confidence that I feel in our ability to get through that initial fear response, right? Or our ability to kind of mitigate some of our natural tendencies to shut down when we get stressed out, right? But for me, I've dealt with people, as Jamie pointed out, of every single skill level you can imagine, down to the people that literally break down crying when they fire a handgun for the first time, not to name any names, right?
No, not me.
But no, in general, I think that, if you just have that confidence, then you can really does help. And, I try not to like be complacent about it, but at the same time,
fake it till you make it, right?
Fake it till something happens. Something's bound to happen.
Oh, okay. What's he got here? Brian says, I find a lot of times I have to trust my instincts over my eyes, if that makes any sense. Like with his AR irons, I know I'm on target. My shot will be true, even though my mentality is throwing me off. That my front sight post is blurry. It's definitely a bit easier mentally when I only have 2 points of focus, the dot and the target, when using a red dot. Yeah.
So, Brian, next time you're on the range, man, if you get an opportunity to do some shooting with your iron sights, I'm going to encourage you to do the target focus thing with your iron sights as well. And I'll tell you why specifically. Because when you're focused on your target will become clear, right? And then your front sight will become blurry, just as your rear sight will become blurry. But if you're looking through that aperture, right, then obviously your rear sight is aligned with the target to the degree that it needs to be. So now all we have to address is the front sight, right? The front sight can be relatively blurry against that target as long as it is placed in the proper orientation relative to the target, right? So where the whether or not the target, or the front sight is clear to you actually doesn't matter in that scenario, as long as the blurry overlay of the front sight is placed properly where you intend to hit the target, right? So long story short, I encourage everybody to experiment with target focused shooting. And again, the reasons why, firstly, if somebody points a pistol at you and you end up pointing a pistol back at them, I can promise you will not be looking through your sights.
Sure. Right.
Right. You may be able to see your sights as a visual reference to where the handgun is oriented, but I promise you what you'll be looking at is the thing that you anticipate is trying to kill you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So that's naturally where your eyes are going to go anyhow. So you may as well embrace that on the front end. But also when I'm shooting, let's say that I'm shooting a target at 25. I have a thing that I do, guys, where when I walk into a place, I'll like look around and I'll try to see like how far away people are from me. And I kind of try to see like, you know,
You just make a range card in your head.
essentially
instantly.
like, are you guys, who's in pistol range here?
Where's my fields of fire?
Let me-
Okay.
Let me see your hands if you're in pistol
Where
range.
am I
right
laying
now.
concertina wire
Right.
on? Okay.
No, but like,
I know what you mean though.
I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what can I see, what could I do,
Yeah.
right? And so like when I look at something through a set of sights, the more clear the target is, the more information I can tell about what's behind the target and all of that stuff, right? So
Sure.
and what's between me and the target as well. So I encourage you guys to attempt the target focus thing.
So Brian says thank you. He absolutely agrees. It's just a mental thing to get past when you start getting old eyes.
Yeah, we got to be super visually disciplined, man. I have a hard time with that myself. When I say visually disciplined, what I mean is earlier I did a lesson with a lady and I'm shooting and I got a little bit embarrassed because string of 5 rounds, 4th round went a little high. And I was like, yeah, so
Kind of like cloverleaf, just
right.
the tiniest bit.
Number 1 was good. Number 2 was okay. Number 3 was in the same hole. But then number 4, I started looking in the window. I stopped looking at the target. I started looking in the window.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I kind of fucked that up.
Brett asked, he's thinking about signing up for one of your tactical pistol trainings. Would an inside the waistband Kydex holster work?
Yeah.
Or do you recommend going outside the waistband?
So as far as inside versus outside, Brett, I think that the main factors that I would consider would be the relative security of the holster, like how confident are you in the retention of the holster that the gun isn't going to fall out? How accessible is the gun? Are you able to access the gun in a hurry? Does the holster keep the gun relatively tucked in tight to your body so that it's going to be kind of concealable?
Mm-hmm.
And then how comfortable are you when you wear the holster? I think those are like the 4 major factors that most people are thinking about.
Yeah.
And looking for in a holster. And I would say that to me, like the security of the holster is number 1, because if the gun's going to end up on the ground at some point in time, I don't really need that holster. There's better options out there. If the, holster isn't going to allow the gun to be accessed, it's kind of the same deal, right? There are definitely holsters out there that will put the gun where I can actually get to it. As far as concealability goes, there are rules about how concealed the gun has to be in terms of like printing and stuff like that. I don't want to be getting the cops called on me because people can read the serial number on my pistol.
Sure.
And then, as far as like the comfort thing, to me, that's the last, honestly, because the comfort of the holster is going to have a lot to do with your belt selection and, with the positioning of the holster and all of those kinds of things.
That's pretty cool. Brett's old boss once took him to the range, had him practice at the distance from his desk to the front door, which is about 10 yards.
100%, man.
Smart. Yeah.
No, I used to tell the guys here all the time, like, when you're standing behind the gun counter, like, first of all, how far away is that door?
Mm-hmm.
What can you do from here to that door?
Yeah.
And then, like, if there's anything in this room that you can't shoot, right, when we're standing out in the old retail area,
Yep.
like, if there's a blind spot or there's somewhere that you can't actually get to,
Right.
where are you going? Like,
Sure.
how are you getting from here to create the angle where you can actually collapse that sector and be able to deliver accurate gunshots, right?
Owen, Mr. Professional, asks, have either of you shot the S&W 10 mil Performance Center? I don't think I've shot the 10 mil one.
No, I
I've
haven't
shot plenty of
shot.
Performance Center 9s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't shot a whole lot of 10 mil, to be honest with you. I've shot a P220 in 10. I've shot a P320 in 10.
Mhm.
I've shot a Glock 40 in 10.
I'm impressed
Only
by
one of those had an optic on
the Smith Performance Center
in
stuff.
general. Oh, yeah.
I think for
Agreed.
the price that you're paying, it's not a crazy upchart. It's not like they're $1,000 or $1,200 guns. I don't know what the M&P 10 mil one is. That might be up there at $1,000 or so. But I like the Smith & Wesson like Performance series. Like I think they did those right.
I'm going to say something that might be a little bit unpopular right now on this stream. Not that I've ever done that before. I think the 10 mil 1911s are no fucking joke.
Yeah.
I think the stainless performance center, Smith & Wesson 9 mils that I have handled, the stipple work or the checkering work that they do on those, the aggressive scale,
and they're very affordable too.
They do.
Like
very inexpensive, match grade barrels,
Yep.
fit and finish, very nice. I'm not saying they're the end all be all, but I'm saying if you have $1,200 to spend on a 1911, that's a good place to start looking. Maybe
definitely one of those where you don't have to go all the way to a Nighthawk or
you don't have to
crazy,
spend STI money,
up over $2,000 over
gun.
something.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
I've always been impressed by the Smith.
Springfield and Smith are like the only two real $1,000-ish 1911s.
Speaking of, I know we're really deep into the weeds in the stream, but speaking of Springfield, what do you think of the Echelon?
I don't know. The only thing that I've seen it every swinging Richard on Instagram has one already.
Yeah. Where's ours?
Which first of all, what the hell, man? But second of all, it looks a lot like a P320 to me, like the P320 we have at home.
It definitely shows. I think when the Glock came out, there was an industry shift towards like that style of striker fired guns and if you pull out 9 out of 10 modern striker fired handguns, they all look the same. There's some slight differences, style, whatever, but the guts of them, and including this one, you take the slide off of the Echelon, it looks exactly like any other striker fired. Yeah. So I think that's what we're seeing now. Fast forward 20, 30 years, the next wave, everyone's going to go to these fire control unit pistols, like the 320, where the guts, the trigger control group is the firearm,
and the gun can be whatever you want.
Be whatever you want.
Anything.
Yeah. Forgotten Weapons did a pretty good breakdown between like the 320 and the Echelon, and it somewhat looks like the 320, and it clearly is. The 320 is a precursor. They kind of
like an inspiration.
It's a lot of things are like external of like the chassis, if you will. There's like springs and things, it's just kind of all there. The Echelon, it's all like internal to it. It's almost like a Timney, like a drop-in trigger
like
from a Timney. Yeah. Where it's all here, it's all neat and in there. And other than that, though, I definitely see almost everybody. I could see Smith coming out with whatever they all call them something different. I can't remember. Springfield called theirs like the not CPU, but they had a name for it. That
not
was
the
not,
FCU
no,
either.
It's not the FCU, but they had their own name for it.
That shit is so annoying sometimes.
Oh, the corporate like not double speak, but you know what I mean.
I do. I know
the jargon. I don't need. We're gonna. What's the word?
Ostracize a lot of people.
It's the COG, the Central Operating Group.
Yeah, the COG.
All right.
So they've all got synergies.
So
you got your
your
synergies to be synergistic. Of course, all your corporate synergies.
The optic cut is the biz.
Yeah. So I guess that's another cool thing too. There's no plate. It's all direct mount to everything.
So it's like a shadow system slide cut, essentially.
Yep.
Like,
yeah. I just don't.
Wait, they don't even have spacers? So now your optic is just cooling?
They have the different.
Okay.
It's still all Croatian made, right?
Right.
Like I think it's HS product. It's
HS product.
Sure. I do my biggest beef with Springfield is they play that marketing game of oldest name in American firearms.
But then they don't make shit in America
and they don't make stuff in America, and that's not true. Right.
The M1A, the 1911.
All this, it's all licensed from somebody else.
Yeah. And they
What about the
are
Hellions?
not
Is theirs? No.
HS2.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Springfield Armory was a government thing.
It was an actual armory.
A government armory founded
Yeah.
to maintain our knowledge of how to make, there was a Rock Island Armory, there was a Springfield Armory, and that closed in the 70s, due to Vietnam War era politicking. So they closed these national armories, went everything private, commercial endeavors. And then, a few years later in the 70s, a guy opens up Springfield Armory, and it's kind of, and then The other big beef,
piggybacking on the name.
a lot of people will remember there were laws maybe 10 years ago or so, a little less than 10 years ago in Illinois, which is where they're from, that were very, very like anti-gun manufacturer, anti-gun retailer, anti-gun owner. And Springfield Armory was like backing these laws because they were exempt. They had it written into the law that they were exempt somehow, but everybody else would be liable for it or burdened by it.
A lot of people were mad with Springfield Armory when that happened, and they forgot about it real fast as well.
Brian, oldest name. That's it. Just the name. They're not.
That's all that's left.
Right.
The last vestige of Springfield Armory.
And it sucks because they used to make a pretty good. I remember like in high school, Josh and I used to drool over like their 1911s, like their World War II replica style, like 1911s. They made some really good ones back. I mean, there's always been 100 1911 companies, but I feel like now there's 500 1911 companies. Back then there was only
I don't know
20
I
or 30.
Gravitate towards like the Springfield Armory like GI spec. And
Yeah.
if you're looking for like a relatively inexpensive gun.
And those are still made in Illinois.
Steel. Yeah. Well, and it's still a forged steel frame instead of cast. Like, if you guys look at the Rock Islands, man, those investment cast frames really fucking bum me out.
But any of the Springfield stuff that's imported, like that's actually HS product, I don't know. It doesn't spark me anything. I mean, they're not bad as like I would call a Taurus bad, or I would call, like a, something else bad, but they just don't. There's no need. So I'm sure you're not going to see like the XD anymore. Why would they sell the XD or the XDM? Right? Those are going to go away, which is I'm fine with those. Yeah.
Well, some people do like, we have a comment up there. Brett said something nice about his XDM 3.8 and it's got a great trigger on it.
They always just they were too high.
Well, that was a complaint, but then P320 has a really high bore axis too, so I don't necessarily care.
I never cared for the grip safety.
The grip safety thing drives me nuts, man.
Yeah.
It's like definitely an unnecessary. Right. It's just you're introducing an opening into the frame where more debris and stuff can get into.
False sense of security too. I don't
like relying on mechanical devices to keep me safe at all. Like when people start using mechanical safety, I was in that lesson earlier with this lady and she had her gun. She didn't have a holster, whatever. So we had loaded her gun with 10 rounds. And you know me, man, I run a hot range, right? So we fired 5 rounds. And then I'm like, all right, can you please bench the pistol? So she goes and benches the pistol and we're just sitting there talking. And then like apropos of nothing, she's just like, oh, I'm going to put the safety on because this gun is loaded. And I was like, okay. And we just moved on.
Sure.
But in my head, I'm like, you just made that so much less safe just by putting your hand over here. Like,
didn't need to touch it. Right.
If you had just left the freaking thing alone, it was far safety. Or as far safer, rather, to just be there. Yeah, Brett, as far as like the grip safety itself, I don't have a problem with deactivating the grip safety. My problem with the grip safety is I drop my gun on the ground a lot. And in some cases, I do it intentionally because, like, it's a gun and I should be able to drop it and it should keep working. But with the Springfield XD specifically, I worry that the grip safety creates an opening where I could end up with debris inside of the gun. And if the grip safety operation gets interrupted at all, the gun is down. You can't even take the gun apart at that point. Like, I would have to send it someplace.
Yeah, you're done.
It's completely useless at that point.
Yeah, you do like a forgotten weapons or an in-range mud test on an XDM or any of those anything with a backstrap safety like that.
They do not fare well. And there are multiple instructors out there that have been doing this far longer than I have that have outright banned XDs from their classes.
It can be the Serpa holster of firearms in that regard, I've heard.
So, specifically Sage, Aaron Cowan from Sage Dynamics, and Larry Vickers specifically are 2 guys that come to mind that have banned the XD pistols from their classes just based on the number of issues that people have had.
I will say, like, in their era, I mean, I'm going back literally like 15 years or more. In the day, the XDM maybe wasn't terrible choice because there weren't a lot of like match grade, like there weren't Smith & Wesson M&P performance centers. There weren't.
If they would just delete that stupid
like
grip safety and make it like a Hellcat.
The Glock, like say 34s, I don't even think had come out yet, where there was more of like a match. I think there was the 17L, but no one had those.
No, and you're right. Nobody was doing like just a match grade barrel in a fighting pistol, except for them at that time.
Yeah.
And I do agree that I think that was kind of cool. But the other thing that I would say about putting a match grade pistol in a gun like that is the guy shooting the gun match grade accurate? Because if he's not, I don't give a shit what barrel's in the gun.
Right.
Ultimately, like, it's not gonna make any difference, man.
The trigger was decent, but never, again, not like what I would consider a match grade trigger.
I never mastered that trigger. I'm not saying that they were good nor bad. Some people I'm sure like them.
Yeah.
Josh
always liked it. I think his dad had one. He always liked it.
Yeah, he had one in 40.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of one of those like, would you like something else just as good? You know what I mean? Like, did you like it just because you had it? Like, it wasn't like it was the end all be all. Yeah.
I bought an XD and I did not have it too long before I ended up selling it.
Yeah.
Just for me, there was a couple things that I, subjectively didn't like. So.
It's late.
Yeah.
Everything else.
Been doing this a while.
Are 80% lowers making a comeback? No. Not really.
Not in New York.
Certainly not in New York. Yeah.
I think he's talking about the new ATF receiver rule that just got.
I have not been able to keep up with hardly any of it. It just things have changed so much, so fast.
Well, we'll go back and we'll review the 80%, or we'll go back and review the ATF's receiver rule, so we can talk about that next week. Because basically the ATF kind of got out over their skis when they were trying to make some regulation surrounding receivers. And
a dealer in a Facebook group was selling like raw billet, like aluminum, like 76 chunks or whatever. And somebody commented like, no, 1% lower band. And it's just literally a rectangle of aluminum.
Yeah.
Like, cool. What do you think? Any other,
do we have any cool stuff that we need to address before we get out of here?
Check out Beyond Driven Fitness and API gun bags.
Yeah, support our sponsors.
Write to your legislator and get rid of red flag laws.
One more thing that we didn't hit. Tyler's going to punch us in the face if we don't do it, because we need to promote the podcast on Spotify for podcasters.
Spotify. If you're still listening to this, it looks like there's still 20 of you somehow. Go on to Spotify, or if you have a grandson, have them help you get Spotify. And if you can follow us, we're very close to 100 followers on there. And it's super cool. I love doing these live streams live, but I love that we're putting them on Spotify because it's such a good catalog of them. You can see them all together. You can watch them too, which I did not realize when he first told me he was putting them on Spotify.
Yeah, no, you can watch the video.
I listen to a lot of podcasts on there, and yeah, some of them have video, but I didn't realize ours would have video. I thought that was like, you got to be a big stream before they'll let you upload video to them or whatever.
So that's another thing that we should do as well, right? For the Spotify side of things, we should start doing stuff that isn't live. Spotify for podcasters, Brian, obviously.
Go to the Hilton Fire Department Carnival. I think that's this weekend.
Yeah, let's go.
That.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Why wouldn't we support
There's
our
not
local?
a lot of those left. Like the Stafford one they stopped doing.
Yeah. No, people should be supporting their local fire department.
You know what's crazy too? Totally off topic. You know why you don't see as many carnivals anymore, like with the rides? Do you know those have to be X-rayed?
Fewer carnies?
Well, yeah, they have to be X-rayed before they can come into New York State for like cracks in the welds and everything like that. But like the big, like they used to do like the Batavia, the St. Joe's like lawn fate and stuff like that. They don't do those anymore because those companies can't come into New York because they can't afford. It's like $20,000 to get like all those machines. Like think about every ride of the carnival having to be X-rayed.
I'm so conflicted about that because on the one hand, I really hate the state. Like I really do.
Right.
I'm gonna go home and distill my hatred for the state tonight and concentrate it even more.
Make my own janky carnival ride.
Yeah, but on the other hand, like I don't want anybody's kids to die on a fucking carnival ride.
I get that too. I've seen those videos where it like breaks a bolt, spins out of control.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I'm really like up in the air on that. I have to see some statistics
Brat.
On that.
Thank you, Brat.
Awesome. Yeah, guys. Great show tonight. Thank everybody for joining us and watching. Great commentary as always. We will see you guys next week.
Love you. Bye.
Night, everybody.